My dev name is Iris Discordia. My real name is Chantal. I'm going to talk to you about designing walking stations and just the general development process behind it. So I've been working for CCP now since 2 years and a bit. And before that, I was a volunteer. I used to moderate the forums. And after moderating for 2 years, I went into writing for news pieces. And then I heard at Fanfest they had a vacancy in the content department, and I signed up and I got hired. And then I started to work on walking stations 4 months after I got hired. So I've been doing it for a long time now. So what is walking in stations? Well, I really hope you know what walking in stations is going to be about by now. We had the big lecture by Torfi yesterday. There's the demo where you can play it. But in short, walking in stations means that instead of the spatial environment, you'll have the station environment. So you have a 3D avatar instead of spaceships. That's the short of it. CCP had the idea of walking in stations before, but they just couldn't realize it yet. And they launched the game without it. And a lot of people were surprised, to say the least, when they were making their character, that they put a lot of time and effort in it, and it looked really good at the time. And then when they finished it, this is what they actually saw of it. It was a small portrait on the forums or on your information screen. So people were, well, a bit saddened by that, and they were always asking, well, where's the rest of the body? Why don't I ever see it? And the first reviews all mentioned it, and it's quite funny to read them. So in 2005, they really decided to make it a real project. There was some more focus on it. As I said, they started to make it an official project. They said, okay, we want to do this at CCP. They knew the scope of the project, and that means roughly they knew what is possible and what isn't possible. And in 2005, they really knew, okay, combat is not going to happen in the first release, and maybe never. So we're not going to look at combat or combat systems. And what we want to have is 3D avatars. And they started to fill in the gap between what is going to happen and what's not going to happen. So you have 3D avatars. What can you do with it? You can walk, and where do you walk? Stuff like that. So they started adding features, like where do you walk to? Why do you walk there? And roughly in 2007, it really started to take off. This is when I started working on it as well. We had a rough idea of the features, like, okay, players will be able to own stores. And then we were asked, okay, come up, which stores are there going to be? So this is like an example of a brainstorming session, somewhat. You start off with, okay, we're going to have stores. What stores do we want to have? And what stores do I go to in real life? Well, coffee. Coffee is a big, big thing in Reykjavik. There's coffee shops everywhere. Like on my way to work, I would come across 4, and that's 4 coffees before you get to work, and you get a lot of work done. People have pets in real life, so you write down pet stores. It's something you think of in a brainstorming session. Well, and then you start thinking, okay, we have 3D avatars. What do people like? Well, they like changing clothes. They want to have plastic surgery, so maybe a gym. People go clubbing. They go to bars. Again, CCP, it's not very difficult to come up with anything beer-related. Food, we're hungry people. Clothes, and then you have these concepts, and then you work them out further, like, okay, what kind of bars will we have? And now we know we'll have 4 bars for each race, and maybe more later. Not sure yet. So around this time, we took the first steps into more detailed designs. We came up with an idea. If we liked it, we fleshed it out a bit more. But this was all very uncertain and more playing around with concepts. Around this time, we also made the vision statement for walking in stations. A vision statement is the soul of a game. You describe the soul and the concept. And it can be for a game or a feature or for an expansion. It can be done for anything. And it basically lays out a plan that explains, okay, I want the goal of walking in stations is to socialize. It's one of the goals. I want it to feel intuitive. It's going to be easy to play. It should be easy to play. I know at the moment some people are not too happy with how it feels in place, but you know, we're working on it. It also explains the look, and for walking in station, it's a realistic look. It's not going to be cartoony. Of course, we're going to stick to the sci-fi theme, and it has to be immersive. You have to feel like it's a real world, and that ties in with it being realistic. So, in short, this is not Eve, because it's cartoony, it's not really, you know, immersive, the colors are a bit too bright, and it's not sci-fi. So whether this is good or bad, doesn't matter, but it's not Eve, and it's not going to be like walking in stations. For Bacchus, for this release, Torfi, our producer, made an alternative vision statement. Normally they're written down, and they can take 20 pages of, okay, I want it to be like this, and you try to put it in words, but it's very difficult to describe a game in words. Screenshots are always easier. And you say what it's not going to be like, you put in images that give you a hint of how it's supposed to look. And Torfi came up with an alternative. He made a video, and that gave us, the team, an idea what it's going to be like and motivate us to do a really good job. And it should start.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
the grass and let hours pass. Take my hand, come back to the land. Let's get away, just for one day. Let me see you stripped. Let me see you stripped. Metropolis has nothing but this. You breathing in fumes, I taste when we kiss. Take my hand, come back to the land where everything's ours for a few hours. Let me see you stripped. Let me see you stripped. Let me hear you make decisions without your television. Let me hear you speaking just for me.
Thank you. Ooh. I can show it again later if you want. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So this is what we received as a team to motivate us and inspire us, and of course it worked. And this really says, okay, this is what we want walking in stations to be like, only more Evish and not several different sci-fi movies in one. Okay. And in 2007 and part of '08, CCP and a project went into overdrive, as I tend to call it. CCP hired tons of new employees, like a good solid number. And a lot of these people started to work on walking in stations. And what is really interesting is that we hired people who are not from the game industry. We hired architects and fashion designers and economists. And you might be thinking, why are they making a big deal about it? Or why did they even do it at all? And that's what I will explain. This thing is driving me insane. So we hired architects, and we hired them because we noticed if we let game designers or the traditional level designer people design a space, you will have a meeting room with, tables upside down, and you can swing on the rafters. And then we had to tell them, there's not going to be any combat. It's supposed to be a space where you can meet and do business. They looked at us like, what? But it's a game. You don't want funky things where you can dodge bullets and smoke appearing from everywhere. Like, no, we want a real meeting room where people can go in and conduct their corporation business. These people, these CEOs, they could benefit from a room where they can plan all their strategies, their tactics, and do it face to face and have good voice tools to do it with. I said, oh, all right. So we thought, okay, let's try architects. And you go to an architect and they approach it from a different way. If you say to them, I want a space that looks sci-fi, that looks expensive, that looks good, but is still functional, they go, okay, that's cool, we can do that. So we hired architects to design these spaces. And it worked really, really well. I hope some of you have played the demo, and I must say, it does look good. It does look like, hey, I can see myself walking around there in a few million years. It's a space. It feels like a real space and not a game level. I should really learn to stand like this. Sorry. We hired fashion designers to design fashion, and not, as I like to call it, fantasy, being all PC. I'm learning, you know. And this is really important for us because we want that level of realism. Again, it has to feel like a world and not as a game or a game costume. And I think the fashion designers, if you tell them, okay, we want a costume for females that look good, that fit well, that can look sexy and hot, but not cheap, tacky like a street prostitute. And they go, okay, you know what, we can do that, because they are used to designing for women who have respected business, but they still want to look nice and confident. And you have to remember, in Eve, of course, we are all star pilots, and in our ships, there are crews. They are responsible for the lives of thousands of people of the world of Eve. So they're not going to dress up in a bikini and you know, do a little dance. We have exotic dancers who do that, and it's an art, again. So we really try to hire the people who can help us make the vision statement and help us reach our goals. And hiring from the game industry would make that harder, because they would keep approaching it as a game, and we wanted more than just that. So we have hot fashion. Oh, and because they're designed by fashion designers, they are actual clothes. You could actually work out the patterns and create them and get the suits on without vacuum cleaners helping you, which is pretty cool. So we have all these people working together, and they're split up in departments. A producer is responsible for the management, making sure we don't kill each other. They also give us the vision statement, and remember, I was like, okay, you should focus on this, you should focus on that, and make sure you reach your deadline. A designer takes the word of the producer, the word of God, and translates it into human speak. So when a producer says, I want mini games, we go, right, okay, we shall find you mini games. And then we make the designs ready and go back to the producer and say, okay, is this what you had in mind? Did I do something wrong? Should I go back to the design table? And when that is finished, and when my design is finished, I give it to art and software, and art generally looks at it and goes, awesome, I like your stuff, we can work with this. And software goes, this is really hard to do, this is going to take a lot of programming, that's going to be a lot of programming. Have you lost your mind? And then there's this staring contest between game design and programming, where we just stare at each other, and you know, sometimes I say fine, and sometimes we work out a compromise. So that's the relation between the departments. And then we have QA. CCP has started to hire more QA, and they've been working on our features faster and sooner. So we had QA in it as well, and they were, you know, working on the more obvious bugs, and we had programmers saying, it works on my computer. And then QA can say, yeah, but it doesn't work on mine, so you have to fix it. And then, you know, we get better and better and better at that stuff. So I'll go more, yeah, this is how we work together day to day. We've started to use Sprint and Scrum. It's a way of management style for software. It's not that interesting. But what happens is the team gets together, so we have all the departments together, and in other management styles, the departments are very separated from each other. Like, you don't really talk to the artists all that much unless you're wasted. You don't talk to the programmers at all because they can be scary. So with Sprint and Scrum, you see each other every day. And if you see somebody every day, you tend to talk to them more, and you feel more comfortable asking them questions. So we sit there, and the producer comes in and says, okay, I have a list here of tasks I want to see done. The higher on top they are, the more important, so pull tasks from on top, and then you do it. And then the team gets together, picks a few tasks, and details out what we can do and how long it will take. And then we work on that for 3 weeks or 4. And at the end of that time, we have something to show for it, where all the departments are involved, it has gone through QA, and it's supposed to work. And then we show it off to the entire company, or in case with Bacchus, we show it off to you. And, because we're all working on it together, if I'm late with my designs, if I'm slacking, hungover for a week, I have programming and software programming are going, where's my stuff? You're making it possible for me to work, and because of you, I'm not going to make our deadline. And that kind of peer pressure makes sure you deliver stuff on time, or if there are problems, you solve these problems quicker, which is good, instead of, delaying it, thinking, oh, I'll see the person like a month later. You have that tight deadline. And it's actually a lot of fun. For some reason, it's a lot of fun to actually talk to the people you're working with, and you learn more about art, you learn more about programming, and there's a good amount of interaction between the teams, which makes it a lot better than when you have to go to programming and you're like, oh, they're gonna shoot me if they hear what I have to say. You're less scared. You're like, okay, I can fix this. So that makes us all very happy. I'll discuss a test case. It's furniture. We're gonna have furniture or props, placeables. And what happens is that the producer comes down and says, furniture, and some other rambling bits you have to try to understand because they're so busy, they're always running around like crazy. So design sits down and says, okay, furniture, well, he's probably talking about moving it, otherwise where's the fun in it if you can't move it around and make it the way you want it to be. So we make a design for how to place and move around furniture. We go to software and they, we have our little routine of yes, 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 no, stare, fine. And we finish the designs and all the departments get busy. They start working it and then we have it finished. We have something that works. Then we're going to test it. Like, okay, is this easy or is it a nightmare to move one couch from one corner to another corner? Because in real life, moving furniture is not fun. You go to IKEA, you get your couch and all your stuff, you call your friends like, hey, could you help me move my heavy, heavy stuff? They say, fine, is there beer? Yes, there's beer, fine, we'll come along. And they help you move everything and you're like, yeah, okay, looks fun. And a week later, you want to call them again and say, okay, I changed my mind, I want to do something else. In real life, people don't like it if you do that. But in a game, it's actually quite a lot of fun to move stuff around. I mean, in The Sims, people did this for hours on end, just moving stuff around, seeing if you can block people, have them die. It works. So we test it and see, okay, is this going to be fun enough? Is it easy, or does it feel like the IKEA story? And if we say, okay, this has to be improved, I don't want to do something that takes forever. I just want to click it and put it down. So then we change it. We go to the cycle again. We have software fixing a few things, and then we try it again. That's the iteration. You make something, you try it out, and then you make it better. The design phase takes up a little bit more time than just, I design it. What I first do is I research it. In the case of furniture, I also played interior designing programs, and they were shit, in short. They were not done with any fun in mind. They were really complicated. They were actually expensive. You couldn't really take a couch and move it. You had all these technical things you had to do and learn. It was like, well, okay, maybe interior designers do need 3 years of schooling before they call themselves interior designers if you have to work with a program that makes me want to kill myself in 5 minutes. So interior design programs, do I have anything, did I learn anything from that? Yes, don't make it too complicated. I tried out The Sims. They have a lot of furniture moving, and it's fun, it's easy. It's not that detailed, the graphics aren't that nice, but the game logic, how it works, is quite good. There was one thing I didn't like, and that was in The Sims. If you buy something, you place it, then you find out whether it's too big or too small. So I learned from it, wrote down, in walking in stations, you should be able to get the outline, place around the outline, and see if it is too big or too small. And if you like it, then you buy it, so you're not stuck with something you don't like. I think a lot of women in real life have also bought something really quickly and not really thinking about it, and you always regret it. So in Eve, you can first try it out, see if it fits the size of your room, and then you get it. I go to producer and all the other designers that are involved and say if they approve it, do they have feedback, do they think I should change something? And if they say no, it's all good, I finish it and send it to software and have a routine. Another challenge that was somewhat unexpected was the captain's quarters. We wanted it to be a functional living space and not like a big mansion. It couldn't be too big, but maybe you can buy a bigger size later, you know. It's Eve, everything should be for sale. It's not the main part of the game, because in the vision statement, you're meant to socialize. In your captain's quarters, which is going to be your personal room, you don't socialize that much. You need to get out and meet people, do something together. So the captain's quarters, they have to be cool, they have to be functional, but a bit small. And this is actually one of the inspirational images I used and art. This was the kind of style we were going for. I think it's the Capsule Hotel in Japan. They got that small functional living space down. They know how to do that. But then we had the question of where do they go? And Art thought, you know, well, it's inside the station. It's walking in stations. So why should it be on your ship? So they made, the first version was really big. And game design saw it and said, well, it's a bit too big. It's supposed to be on the ship, captain's quarters, where the, captain resides, the pilot. So Art went, right, you could have said that sooner. And game design went, well, our bad, thought you knew. So they redid it, and ta-da, we had the first version that was inside the ship. Only having it in the ship brings out a lot of consequences we didn't foresee. One of them is Eve players have a lot of ships, like we have tons of them. So would we have tons of captain's quarters that start to clutter up your hangar everywhere? Because you have one captain's quarters that's fitted in this style, another in that style, and one is maybe too expensive to bring into combat, so you switch it out. And it was decided, well, that's going to be a hassle. We'll have one captain's quarters, and it will follow you around magically. I don't know if any of you have read Discworld with the luggage, like the little luggage on legs that follows Rincewind around. It was getting to that point, so yeah. We're thinking that's not believable in the slightest. So we had some more meetings, and now the captain's quarters is back inside the station, but with a twist. I don't know if any of you have heard about the high-stake rollers in Las Vegas. They're the people that play blackjack and just lose a fortune. And when they come down in Vegas, all the hotels know they're in town. They, just in case, they prepare a hotel room for them that's up to their taste, up to their standard. Their favorite Smarties are in there without the green ones. And it's completely done for them because they are that important. And in Eve, the capsuleers, the pilots, are that important. We are so rich, it's not funny. So when a star pilot docks in a station, the station will make sure that a room is available. Your captain's quarters is there. And you, if you like it, you can decorate it. You can save the way you decorate it, the light setting and everything. and you can send it to the next station. You'll be docking it, and they make sure it's in that position, the way you decorated it before. So, you know, you do get the VIP treatment. Of course, if you're starting to decorate your hotel room with insanely expensive stuff, you may have to pay for it as well. But we solved the captain's quarters thing a bit, so it's not like this magical stalker room. I wasn't fond of it. And this is how the captain's quarters looks like now. Go back to the other picture. Oh. See, this is, for me, this looks Caldari, and this looks Galente. So you see, it's very sleek, and the idea is that the bed will come out of the wall, and everything will be able to move and be fun. More fun, really. Okay, so we had the Bacchus delivery, and again, Bacchus, what we're showing today is a sneak preview in development. It's not an alpha, it's not a beta. Some people have been saying it, but we're not at this stage. We know it looks really good, and it's easy to, get all confused, but this is not finished. For us at CCP, it was really a test. Like, okay, we've been working in Sprint and in Scrum, and at the end of a few weeks, we have something to show. But are we really polishing it to the state where we feel comfortable showing it to the public? How much extra work would there be if we show it to fans? Well, a lot of extra work. Suddenly, there's like pressure. And you see, people stay later, and we have more small stuff coming up, of which we first thought, well, we can do it later. But now we have a good idea, okay, this much work is involved if we show it to the public. So it will help us plan out the rest of development a lot better. A lot is left to do. This is a vertical slice. It's just a bit of walking stations that's done to a high degree. It's finished to a high degree, instead of doing all of walking stations, but doing it really bad. For Bacchus, we had some QA support. We had some bugs, and I'll show you the funniest ones. We had the walking head. All of the rooms do not have texture. These are the functional blockouts where art just makes the outline of a room. And so we can walk around in and see if it, if it's too big, too small. This is skeleton insect man. What happened here was that the clothes, they are attached to the skeleton. So they stretch out depending on how the skeleton is formed. And here there was something wrong with the rigging. Yeah, it looked something like, okay, we're doing sci-fi, this is horror, so, I had recorded how it walks, and it's hilarious. It doesn't walk, it just moves forward. It's like, it wants to walk, it just fails. So it looked quite funny. Here from the back. See, imagine that walking. It doesn't walk, it just hobbles forward, and it's so sad. Here the infamous costume at CCP, Galente number 3. We'll probably have a better name, but this is our favorite. It's probably clear why. But here, the females were still bald, and they did walk, but it wasn't polished. It didn't look that natural. It looked a bit, too gamey, too cartoony. Again, I think this is the captain's quarters. This is an earlier version of it, and again, completely untextured. And we were walking around in here and said, okay, it's nice, but it needs to be a little bit different, and then we can make it different without losing a lot of work in texturing it in all the details. Here we have her again, our favorite. And a different costume. Here you can see the effect of a lack of light. There's this dark mess in the background. The costume is finished, it is done, but because you're missing all the lights, again, Torfi explained how much work goes into it, it looks crap. So while the costume might be gorgeous, if you don't have everything else, it just doesn't work. So life after Bacchus, for us that means feedback. Give it to us. It's what we need, it's what we want. What did you really like? What did you think was horrible? Of everything you heard about walking in stations, what are you looking forward to? What are you less excited about? For us, this is really important to know. Because as I said, we have this huge list of what we want to finish, and whether something is on top or lower depends on the fans. If you say, okay, I really do not care about security guards, just give me the exotic dancers, then exotic dancer will be a lot more important than the security guards. You know, if you say, I don't care what happens to me as long as I can see booty moving, then we concentrate on that. I'm pretty sure the rest of the team won't mind either. And this is part of the team. This was after like a week of working long hours. They went a bit crazy. But now you see it, and I think it's nice that people know there is a team working on a project. It's not just the producer and the game designers. We do get more exposure, but we couldn't do anything without all of these guys. So that's it for now. Thank you.